The Tibetan Plateau is a place of extremes. It is the highest plateau on Earth. It is often called the roof of the world. The plateau stretches across a vast area. It covers much of Tibet and parts of China, India, Nepal and Bhutan. The average elevation is over 4,500 meters or 14,800 feet. The air is thin. The landscape is harsh but beautiful. The Tibetan Plateau formed millions of years ago. The Indian subcontinent collided with Asia. This collision pushed up the land, creating the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau. The plateau is still rising today. It rises a few millimeters each year. The climate of the Tibetan Plateau is extreme. Winters are long and cold. Temperatures can drop to -40 degrees Celsius or -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Summers are short and cool. The air is dry year-round. There is little rainfall. The Tibetan Plateau is a land of stark beauty. It is a place of snow-capped mountains, glaciers, and high-altitude deserts. The plateau is home to many rivers. These rivers provide water to billions of people downstream. The Tibetan Plateau is a vital source of water for Asia. The Tibetan Plateau is a land of towering mountains. The Himalayas dominate the southern edge of the plateau. This mountain range includes Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world. The Kunlun Mountains form the northern border. The Karakoram Range lies to the west. These mountain ranges create a formidable barrier. They isolate the Tibetan Plateau from the surrounding lowlands. The mountains are home to glaciers, snow-capped peaks, and deep valleys. The valleys are often carved by rivers. They support a surprising diversity of life. Between the mountain ranges lie vast plains. These plains are high and dry. They are often dotted with salt lakes. The lakes are remnants of ancient seas. They shimmer in the sunlight. The plains are home to nomadic herders who have roamed these grasslands for centuries. The Tibetan Plateau is a challenging environment, yet it is also a place of great beauty. The mountains are awe-inspiring. The skies are vast and blue. The air is clear and crisp. The silence is profound. Water is life on the Tibetan Plateau. The region is the source of many major rivers. These rivers include the Yangtze, Yellow, Mekong, and Brahmaputra. These rivers flow for thousands of kilometers, sustaining billions of people downstream. The Tibetan people revere these rivers. They consider them sacred. The rivers are home to many fish species. They provide water for irrigation. They are essential to life on the plateau. The mountains are also sacred to the Tibetan people. They believe that spirits inhabit the mountains. The mountains are places of pilgrimage. People climb to the summits to pray. They leave offerings of food and incense. Mount Kailash is one of the most sacred mountains in Tibet. It is a pilgrimage site for Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains. The mountain is said to be the abode of Shiva, a powerful Hindu deity. Pilgrims circumambulate the mountain. They walk for days to complete the journey. Tibetan Buddhism is the dominant religion on the Tibetan Plateau. It is a form of Vajrayana Buddhism known for its colorful rituals and mystical beliefs. Tibetan Buddhism permeates every aspect of life. It influences art, music, literature, and daily life. Buddhism arrived in Tibet in the 7th century AD. It spread rapidly and became deeply intertwined with the indigenous Bon religion. Tibetan Buddhism emphasizes compassion, wisdom, and the pursuit of enlightenment. The Dalai Lama is the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism. He is considered to be a reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion. The current Dalai Lama is Tenzin Gyatso. He is the 14th Dalai Lama and lives in exile in India. Tibetan Buddhism is a living tradition. It is practiced by millions of people. It continues to shape the culture and identity of the Tibetan people. Section 5. Monasteries in the Clouds. The Tibetan Plateau is home to thousands of monasteries. These monasteries are perched on hillsides. They cling to cliff faces. They stand as testaments to the power of faith. The monasteries are centers of learning and meditation. They are home to monks and nuns. The Potala Palace in Lhasa is one of the most iconic monasteries in Tibet. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was once the winter palace of the Dalai Lamas. The palace is a masterpiece of Tibetan architecture. It is a symbol of Tibetan Buddhism. The Jokhang Temple is another important religious site. It is located in the heart of Lhasa. It houses a sacred statue of the Jowo Shakyamuni Buddha. The statue is said to have been brought to Tibet in the 7th century AD. The monasteries are not only religious centers, they are also cultural treasures. They house priceless works of art. These works of art include thangkas, murals, and sculptures. They are repositories of Tibetan history and knowledge. Section 6. Festivals of Color and Light. The Tibetan people celebrate many festivals throughout the year. These festivals are a riot of color, music, and dance. They offer a glimpse into the rich cultural heritage of Tibet. Losar is the Tibetan New Year. It is the most important festival in Tibet. It is celebrated in late winter or early spring. People celebrate with family and friends. They eat special foods. They perform traditional dances. The Shoten festival is another popular festival. It is a celebration of opera and Buddhist teachings. It is held in the summer. Monks perform operas on a stage set up below the Drepung monastery. The Butter Lamp Festival is a beautiful festival of light. It is celebrated in the fall. People light thousands of butter lamps. They place them in and around their homes and monasteries. The lamps symbolize the dispelling of darkness and ignorance. These festivals are an integral part of Tibetan culture. They are a time for joy, celebration, and spiritual reflection. They bring people together. They reinforce their shared identity. Section 7. Life on the Plateau. Life on the Tibetan Plateau is challenging. The altitude, climate, and terrain pose many difficulties. Yet the Tibetan people have adapted to this harsh environment. They have thrived for centuries. Nomadic pastoralism is a way of life for many Tibetans. They herd yaks, sheep, and goats. They move their herds across vast distances. They follow the grazing pastures. Yaks are particularly well suited to the high altitude. They provide meat, milk, wool, and transportation. Agriculture is also important. Barley is the staple crop. It grows well in the short growing season. Farmers also grow potatoes, wheat, and peas. They use irrigation to water their crops. They rely on yak dung for fertilizer. Trade is essential to the Tibetan economy. Tibetans trade with people in the lowlands. They trade wool, yak butter, salt, and medicinal herbs. They trade for goods they cannot produce themselves. These goods include rice, tea, and sugar. Section 8. Guardians of the Snow. The Tibetan Plateau is home to a unique and fragile ecosystem. It supports a variety of plant and animal life. Many of these species are found nowhere else on Earth. The snow leopard is one of the most iconic animals of the Tibetan Plateau. It is a highly endangered species. It is threatened by habitat loss and poaching. Snow leopards are elusive creatures. They are perfectly camouflaged for life in the high mountains. The Tibetan antelope, or chiru, is another endangered species. It is hunted for its fine wool, known as shatush. Shatush is highly prized in some countries. It is used to make luxury shawls. The trade in shatush is illegal. It has decimated chiru populations. Other notable animals found on the Tibetan Plateau include the wild yak, Tibetan wild ass, Tibetan gazelle, and Himalayan brown bear. These animals are all adapted to the harsh conditions of the plateau. They play important roles in the ecosystem. Section 9. Protecting a fragile ecosystem. The Tibetan Plateau faces many environmental challenges. These challenges include climate change, overgrazing, and mining. These activities threaten the delicate balance of the ecosystem. Climate change is having a significant impact on the Tibetan Plateau. Glaciers are melting at an alarming rate. This is causing glacial lakes to expand. It increases the risk of floods. Climate change is also affecting the timing of the monsoon. This is disrupting traditional farming practices. Overgrazing is another problem. The increasing demand for livestock products is leading to larger herds. This is putting a strain on the grasslands. It is leading to soil erosion and desertification. Mining is also a threat. The Tibetan Plateau is rich in mineral resources. Mining operations can pollute water sources. They can displace local communities. They can damage fragile ecosystems. Protecting the Tibetan Plateau is essential. This unique and important region is facing unprecedented challenges. It requires a concerted effort from governments, organizations, and individuals. Section 10. An enduring legacy. The Tibetan Plateau is a land of wonder. It is a place of breathtaking beauty, ancient cultures, and profound spirituality. It is the roof of the world. It is the source of life for billions of people. The Tibetan people have lived in harmony with this land for centuries. They have developed a deep respect for nature. They have created a rich and vibrant culture. The future of the Tibetan Plateau is uncertain. It faces many challenges. Yet the people of Tibet remain resilient. They are committed to preserving their culture and their environment. The Tibetan Plateau is a reminder of the power and fragility of nature. It's a place that inspires awe and wonder. It is a place that deserves our protection. It is a place that will stay with you long after you have left.